At a time when the rest of the country is seeing a sharp decline in COVID cases, in Kerala, the fact is that the state is now witnessing, if not a surge, certainly a continual steady phase of over 10,000 cases per day. In fact, in the last 24 hours, Kerala has reported over 13,000 cases, a 7-day positivity rate of 10.41%. Kerala now accounts, as we said, for 32% of the active cases in the country, and the active cases are now higher than the recoveries. So is Kerala the state from where this country could get a potential third wave? What's really happening in Kerala, a state that has been hailed for months as being a model state in the fight against COVID? Is Kerala reporting accurately, unlike other states, or is there something else to explain these high numbers? It's my top story today.
In February this year, when the second wave of COVID was picking up pace, Kerala reported 0 COVID cases for an entire week. Today it accounts for 32% of daily COVID infections in India. On July the 8th, Kerala reported 13,722 fresh cases with a 7-day average test positivity rate of 10.41%. It's a far cry from mid-May, during the peak of the second wave, when the state touched 43,529 daily cases on May the 12th, with a total positivity rate of 29.75%. Though the strict lockdown restrictions have helped bringing down the daily number of cases, it hasn't gone down as fast as the rest of the country.
पिछले एक हफ्ते के कंट्रीब्यूशन के टर्म्स में देश में जितने केसेस रिपोर्ट हुए उसके 21% केसेस महाराष्ट्र से आए हैं और 32% केसेस केरला से रिपोर्ट हुए हैं.
Kerala has so far vaccinated 31.5% of its population with the first dose, but it doesn't seem to have slowed down the viral spread.
The population density is very high. The people moving across the border as well as inside the state is very high. The mobility of the people is also very high. And third, I will say that the vaccination, even though the vaccination is happening at a particular rate, it's not sufficient. We have to vaccinate more people in a very small period of time.
Experts say the high number of cases could be due to the targeted testing strategy adopted in the state.
If you do focused or targeted testing, that is, if you track people down who are contacts of patients, or if you go to a hospital and do a testing on people who come with symptoms suggestive of COVID-19, yes, your percentage will be higher.
Some experts are describing Kerala's current surge as a controlled explosion. The state government says this ensures health infrastructure is not stretched.
At any point of time, the system overload is a much more dangerous thing. System overload where there are large number of cases, but it is far more under control and better than a uncontrolled spike.
As on Thursday, Kerala accounts for 30% of India's daily COVID-19 tally. Even as the state administration claims that the situation is under control with its robust health infrastructure, the big question is whether or not the state can prevent further spike in cases or even going into a third wave. With camera person Tinku Rajshekharan, Gopikrishnan, Thiruvananthapuram for India Today.
Okay, let's raise the big questions now. Is the Kerala model, the highly publicized Kerala model, failing in the COVID fight at the moment? Why are the cases not dropping in Kerala like the rest of the country? Has the curve flattened in Kerala? Could there be another peak? What explains the Kerala paradox, a state which is highly vaccinated or doing very well on the vaccination front, but also finding its caseload remaining steadily high? Joining me now is Dr. Sulfi Nuhu. He's National Coordinator of the Indian Medical Association Social Media Wing and Central Working Committee member, IMA. I'm also joined by Dr. Giridhar Babu, Professor and Chief Life Course Epidemiology at the Public Health Foundation of India. Dr. Padmanabha Shenoy is clinical rheumatologist and immunologist, and he's based in Kerala. I appreciate all of you joining us. Let's get a sense from each of you of where this stands. Try and explain this to us, Dr. Sulfi Nuhu, because till last week, Kerala had got well over 35% of its population vaccinated with the first dose. we would have thought that Kerala had the virus completely under control. The case load now remains well over 10,000 per day, accounting for 32% of India's total active cases per day. Has something gone wrong? Why is the Kerala active cases not coming down at the moment?
Yeah, basically, the Kerala has a very peculiar aspect as far as health or anything concerned. So the most important aspect is that the population density of Kerala. There is no urban village divide here. It's a big township. The mobility of the people traveling across the border and inside the state is huge. Actually, it's very, very high. So that is the basic reason why it's not coming down all of a sudden. The plateau of 10 plus test positivity is still there for the last week or so. I think, and moreover, even though the vaccination is around 30, something, it's the exact figure I have to look. But then the vaccination is, you can say that it's okay. But it's since there's a huge susceptible population here, the people here, if you travel across the country, if you visit different
just
states,
a minute.
the people...
No, Dr. Nuhu, look at Delhi, look at Mumbai, for example. If you are looking at population density, our big metros are certainly far more densely populated than the state of Kerala. I admit that Kerala may not have, as you say, the sharp urban-rural divide that certain other states have, but our urban centers have also seen a sharp decline in COVID cases. Yet, Kerala is accounting for 32% of India's total active caseload as we stand today.
Yeah, yes, that is true. Even if you look at Mumbai, Delhi, the people traveling inside a metro train or maybe in the city is huge. But still, the problem is inside Kerala during the first wave itself, the people wearing the basic protocols of the public health measures, like wearing the mask, keeping the distance. The amount of people that the people obeying these measures were high. So naturally, they did not get the infection, and that number is very high. That the susceptible population is very high. That's one of the reasons. Even though the population density, comparing to maybe the metros may be equal to Trivandrum, maybe any city in the country.
You're saying that in the first wave, Kerala was relatively protected, and therefore was more susceptible in a second wave or a potential third wave. Am I correct? That unlike other parts, because Kerala, and this is where Dr. Girdhar Babu, you can explain to our viewers how these waves work. That parts of the country which did very well in the first wave last year, in the second wave, Kerala had, in the month of May, for example, an explosion. Cases were going up to 45,000 a day. Now it has come and settled at around 10 to 13,000 per day. Now, why is it not going down further is the worry.
Yeah, Rajdeep, I think this is a good point to summarize here. The areas which did not have higher circulation going on in an earlier wave are definitely prone for newer areas of circulation. So that's basic number one. Number two, we should acknowledge that there is ongoing continuous circulation in the state of Kerala. We can't deny that. And most people might prefer to stay at home rather than go to the hospital for isolation. So because the public health infrastructure can identify those who require kind of oxygenation support when required, and they might continue to spread more within the family rather than outside the family. So that's why the circulation gets established when the isolation is unable to break the transmission. The purpose of isolation is to break the chains of transmission. That probably is ineffective. And the third thing, which we should give full credit to Kerala, is the number of tests and also the way in which the tests are done. So, and it is uniform both in urban and rural areas. Therefore, they are bound to detect whenever there is circulation present.
So, you're actually saying that Kerala, because it has targeted testing, unlike random testing in certain other parts of the country, that's why, because they're testing, are you telling me that Kerala is actually a victim of its own success in testing better than other states?
No, there are two aspects here. One, we can't deny that the circulation is definitely present. So there is widespread circulation of the COVID-19 going on in the state. Two, better testing levels are able to detect it. So now we need to act on both, which is First is to interrupt the transmission. Without interrupting the transmission, even with a better testing strategy, will not be able to. So this is test, track, treat, and also isolating people who are having the infection, which is more important. That's where probably Kerala would want to do some more work, although they are doing well. But isolating people within the house is more challenge than having an institutional isolation made possible. The next thing is there is no doubt the newer variants of concern are definitely at play here, and there is evidence from Kerala that it is the Delta virus which is causing it. Therefore, we know which is the virus here. We know that probably at the isolation level, there is some kind of discrepancies. And third, as good as the testing is, we should be able to increase even more, because even within the households, maybe there are more people who are infected, who are continuing the transmission. Therefore, we should be doing more tests than what Kerala is already doing. That's also important.
Okay, and I take all these points, but there are those who will consistently say, like, look at the states of northern India which were damned for the longest time for their public health structure. At the moment, the caseload there seems more under control, is one argument given. Dr. Padmanabha Shenoy, do you believe that the Kerala model, in a sense, also needs to introspect that while they have done well in keeping case fatalities down, and again now there are reports that there could be a discrepancy between the actual number of deaths and those that have been reported, but by and large Kerala did well in keeping its case fatality down. There was less hospitalizations in Kerala. Having said all that, the fact that the caseload remains reasonably high, do you believe the Kerala model also needs to look a little inwards? There was too much of self-congratulation last year.
Yes, I think partly Kerala has to introspect. Every state has to introspect why there is high case load. Let us look at Kerala's example. Raddeep, Kerala, as you said earlier, Kerala is here because of its own success. Kerala during the first wave and during the second wave also, the excess death data is there now. Kerala's excess death data by a lot of unofficial figures suggest that Kerala will have a mortality of around 35 to 40,000 cases. That's what you were mentioning earlier. Kerala has officially declared around 15,000. The real toll will be 2 to 3 times. So infection mortality, that is how many persons get infected for one death, is around 300. So if we multiply 40,000 by 300, approximately 1.25 to 1.3 crore people in Kerala has been infected to date. That indicates Kerala's zero prevalence will be, at this moment, will be something around 35 to 40%. Let us look at the other examples of other states where the excess mortalities are, for example, Madhya Pradesh excess mortalities data shows that the mortality is around 2 lakhs. So if you multiply 2 lakhs with 300, you will get a figure of 6 crores. So the zero prevalence probably there is 75 to 80%. So in Kerala, most of the people are still susceptible to the virus, or they have not got infected. That is what is you mean by flattening the curve.
So what you're saying, let me explain this to our viewers. What you're saying is that states which were successful in ensuring that the transmission levels were not high, because people were not infected by the virus, therefore they are still susceptible to the new Delta variant. Am I correct? That those who are not affected are now susceptible.
Perfect. So in Kerala, 60% of the population are still susceptible, where most of the Sero survey in Delhi and other parts are showing 75 to 80% are already infected. So in Kerala, majority are susceptible, and Delta is the variant which is spreading. 95% of the Kerala cases are Delta variants. So we are expecting that there will be a transmission which will be ongoing. But what is successful is Kerala has never witnessed a total loss of chaos, like people are not getting beds, ventilators are not there, oxygen deficiency is there. None of these schemes were seen anywhere in Kerala, and Kerala is still able to cater to all the people who have been infected. I think it is a success story, but having an ongoing transmission indicates that there will be curbs in place, and Kerala will bear the economic pain of this continued transmission and prolonged plateauing. What Kerala is seeing now is prolonged plateauing, or last week there was a 4% increase in cases, and this week there are going to be 7 to 10% increase in cases. And after months of climbing down of TPR, this week is going to see an upsurge in TPR also. So all this indicates Kerala is going to see a prolonged plateau or an uptick in the coming weeks, for which Kerala may have to pay price economically. So for the health gain, Kerala is going to pay the price economically.
Very interesting, a prolonged plateau. What we are seeing in Kerala, that's a good word to use, a prolonged plateau of cases. You haven't seen the sharp spikes and downs that you've seen in other states. And remember, for those who are critical of the Kerala model, the fact is that their hospitalizations are much less. They haven't had the kind of oxygen shortages that other parts of the country have had. Would you agree with that, Dr. Su, that the Kerala model hasn't seen the kind of, Dr. Sulfi Nu, the kind of hospitalizations and oxygen shortage, the collapse of the medical infrastructure in Kerala? That has what the public health system of Kerala has stood firm. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. See, even though there was number of people getting that number of admissions, number of ICU admissions, and those who required oxygen increase, but it did not, it did not paralyze the total infrastructure. The total infrastructure or the facilities were not collapsed. So it was just okay, and we just went in for a total lockdown. And now we have a sufficient beds are available, the oxygen cylinders are available, oxygen beds are available, and so now even though we have around 13,000 cases per day, the hospital still that number of cases are manageable at the moment.
So can the Kerala government congratulate itself, or do you believe that it is that they should be a little careful before congratulating them if this prolonged plateau now continues? Because if the rest of the country has seen a sharp decline and the plateauing continues in Kerala, can the Kerala government claim victory over coronavirus?
No, definitely, not over. See, if you read the data of UK, I think they are going to declare a total freedom on 18th of I think it is 20th of July. They are going to throw away all the masks. They are going to give all relaxation. Everything is going to be open. So it's not it's not a time to celebrate. We have to consolidate, and definitely we believe that many people believe that we may go to a third wave from this plateau. It's a possibility.
No, let me just take that to Dr. Giridhar Babu, because is that a real concern? That what we are seeing at the moment, I have got a good word for today, prolonged plateau. But could the prolonged plateau that we are seeing in a state like Kerala lead to a third wave? Kerala and Maharashtra, the two states that have seen a large number of active cases even in the last couple of weeks compared to other parts of the country, could it lead to a third spike, Dr. Babu?
Yeah, there are 3 points I would want to mention here, Rajdeep. To begin with your like for the word, a propagated epidemic is a technical term that we use when the outbreak is prolonged for a long time.
Okay.
So that's what is happening in Kerala. The second thing is, we should not be happy that the bed occupancy is okay, therefore we don't have any problem at Kerala. As we know, throughout the world, the newer variants of concern emerge from an area where the circulation is going on for a long time. So the more the circulation, more are the chances of developing newer variants. Therefore, we should be able to interrupt the transmission as soon as possible. Number 3, right now, the situation seems to be okay. But then if there are newer variants, because of the circulation is ongoing, even this system, the strong health system, can be burdened. Therefore, interrupting the transmission is the most important goal for the Kerala government right now to consider and to prevent the third wave from happening.
Okay, so in a way you're saying that they still need to be very, very conscious. Dr. Padmanabha Shenoy, would you agree that you've got to be, Kerala also needs to therefore avoid complacency? The last thing Kerala also needs is the kind of images that we are seeing in North India at the moment of overcrowding going on in markets and hill stations.
Already it is there, Sarbhi. Let us be very erratic. It's already there. If you look at Kerala markets, in front of the beverage shops, there's huge queues. People are not having any social distancing. So no social, it's a huge queue of 1 or 2 kilometers, and proper wearing of mask is not happening. And double mask people have forgotten. There are a lot of issues which are happening in Kerala over past 1 or 2 weeks.
Right.
Another strange thing which has happened over time, where government has given alternate day opening of shops. But Google mobility data shows very clearly that on the day when shops are open, there's a huge amount of people in the shops, which is counterproductive rather than serving the purpose. So Kerala needs to modify its strategy. Otherwise, I am sure in the coming days, as Dr. Giridhar Babu said, we will be seeing an uptick in cases, and we will again struggle to control the pandemic. And more importantly, tracing is not at all happening, which was happening earlier. The tracing is namesake or it's not happening. And third thing, most important thing is Kerala, as Dr. Sulfi told earlier, is very dense state. And Kerala is having very high case load. But as central government distribute the vaccine, Kerala will get 3% of the vaccines of the central pool. With this vaccination phase, that is not enough for Kerala. Kerala has to have out-of-the-box ideas. For example, subsidizing the vaccine to the private hospital and distributing it through the public will be one of the ideas which Kerala government needs to follow so that
but I'm looking at Kerala's vaccine numbers, and they are doing a lot better than most other states.
Yes,
again,
true.
in terms of percentage per million of population. Kerala doing relatively better. I'm joined by a voice from the Kerala, who's close to the Kerala government. Dr. Anis, if you can hear me.
Yeah, fine. I can hear you.
Dr. Anis, there is this question mark at the moment. We are trying to get a sense of why Kerala at the moment is now the state where the biggest concerns are being expressed. The Prime Minister has expressed it today. Do you believe that the concerns are legitimate, or do you believe this prolonged plateau is actually evidence of Kerala's success in keeping the virus overall under control?
For me, both the arguments has got its own points. It is actually not good that we are experiencing large number of cases. Definitely, there can be a third wave that can piggyback on the second wave itself. So that is a danger, and our health system is again, it is partially filled, and if we are not able to cater a third wave now. But you just, at the same time, we have to think why there is a rapid decline in number of cases in other states. Okay, you just release your lockdown, but why your cases are not increasing? It may be because there is no susceptible population there. Maybe they are not able to capture or capable of finding out infection. So many things are there because all over the world, this kinds of feature will not be happening elsewhere. The rapid increase in cases and rapid declining in cases. What is meant by flattening of the curve? It is meant by there will be a steady increase in cases, and the decrease will be also be in a steady rate. That is what we are finding in the almost all over the world. But in India, we are seeing rapid increase and rapid decline. So what is the reason for this rapid decline? Why this is not happening in Kerala is actually an academic question. So that may be because we were able to save many people to be infected along with the wave or at the peak of the wave. We have got around 15,000 cases even now. Suppose these 15,000 cases were also added to the wave at the time of maybe by last week of May or something like that. Our system might have been collapsed. It was not happened in Kerala.
So you're saying the Kerala government, unlike other parts of the country, managed the coronavirus in a manner that you did not have these huge peaks that will then lead to equally big falls. Am I correct?
No. Actually, it is not. It is not the government which is managing the corona cases. It is actually the people. Suppose if you just tell them to wear mask, people has to wear mask. If you just tell them to stay in your home, you have to stay in their home. If you are staying in the home and if you are susceptible still for the infection, because COVID is already there, when you are going out of your home, you are more susceptible for the infection and you will get infected. If an average Indian now going out, but if he is not getting COVID, that means the COVID has actually devastated and it was not able to spread, maybe because of the rapid herd immunity that was achieved by rampant infections. So if you look at the death rate and the excess death and all other things, maybe the epidemiological parameters like how many of your beds were filled, how many of your maybe ventilators were filled, how many of people they were not getting the ventilator at the time of peak. Kerala was not suffered any of these things. And if you look at the first wave also, after the first wave, you maybe at the time of January or December, out of the total cases in India, more than 50% was actually in Kerala. But if you look at the time of the surge, only 10% is from Kerala. If suppose you are going to get COVID, what is the good time to get COVID is actually between two curves, not along with the curve or along with the peak. That is my point.
Very interesting. Very interesting. If you have to get COVID, the best time to get it is between waves, not at the peak of the wave when infrastructure is stretched. Just one final point, Dr. Girdhar Babu. You know, there's a belief that Kerala is doing well because the testing has been targeted versus random testing in other parts of the country, and that's why the caseload is also higher. When you do targeted testing, you actually identify those who've got COVID. Do you believe large parts of the country, therefore, are actually using these figures in the wrong way? They need to get real with their figures and ensure targeted testing across India.
Yeah, Rajdeep, we should compliment Kerala where the strengths are definitely highlighted, which includes one, sustained testing levels in terms of number, and also, as you rightly said, targeted testing, which is what we call a syndromic approach or symptom complex approach, which Kerala does it really well. But in rest of the country, absence of evidence of circulation does not mean absence of circulation. We have to be vigilant all the time, especially in the rural areas. I often keep referring Kerala's model of uniform and equitable testing throughout the state to be a model, perfect model for testing everywhere, in all rural areas, in all districts. That's when we will be able to prevent the transmission from going on in the rural areas and prevent the newer variants of concern. So there, definitely Kerala is a model worth emulating in other parts of the country.
You know, I appreciate all of you joining us because I have been told, I can tell you, ever since last year I suggested that large parts of this country should look closely at the Kerala model. And I was attacked for suggesting that I was promoting the Kerala model. I wasn't promoting the Kerala model. I was just saying the investments in public health and the manner in which the government has taken COVID seriously and interacted with the citizens is worth emulating in certain other parts of the country. One final question, Dr. Anees. We've seen a report, it's come out today in the Times of India, which suggests that an RTI has said that Kerala has not given an accurate number of deaths. Is that true that Kerala, which I thought had a case fatality ratio of just 0.3% among the best in the world, not just in India, has actually not told us the truth about the number of deaths?
Okay, along with that question, I want to mention about it is very difficult for we in Kerala to reduce the TPR because people are well aware of the symptoms. Even if they are residing in a rural area, they will go to a private lab and get tested.
Right.
And then they will just tell the status to their friends, and the friends will also go and test. So it is very, very difficult to reduce the number of cases in Kerala because whenever there is cases, it may be reported in Kerala. To your question, definitely Kerala has got some issues that even the post-COVID period, the cases were not reported as COVID. Only those things were happening maybe in 2020 and early part of 2021. The government of Kerala is actually looking into matter and we are trying to correct it. But the thing is, we have to think about the excess death. Kerala, we were actually having somewhere around 20,000 excess death in 2021. And out of this 20,000, 13,000 are COVID, and more than 60% is because of COVID that we know. But there in other states, there are so many, only 6% or 5% is accounted for COVID. So in Kerala, the problem is, actually these people got tested positive once, but at the time of death, they were negative. That was the reason that these people were kept away from the death reporting. Okay. And now we are trying to include them also because of the Supreme Court verdict and all.
Can I say therefore, that what Kerala thinks today, India must think tomorrow? Can I say it or not? Can I say yes?
Actually, it is...
yes or no?
Definitely.
I'm asking each of you.
Yes. Yes,
I can say it.
No. Yeah, not only in health, in all aspects, Kerala must be the model.
No, all aspects. Please, on the economy, you've just had one of your biggest businessmen leave Kerala and he wants to invest in Tamil Nadu, Telangana, any part but Kerala. So on economy, let's not follow the Kerala model. On public health, are all my four panelists clear that Kerala still has a model in place, yes or no?
Rajdeep,
yes.
Okay, there are some things worth emulating from Kerala.
Yes.
I would not say everything is perfect to be emulated, especially as we witness now in the wave which is ongoing. Kerala also needs some of the strengthening of the public health system, but some of the aspects are definitely worth emulating.
Okay, let's leave Let me...
Rajiv,
Yes?
Rajiv, Kerala needs to invest lots on genomic testing because we are not identifying genetic variants on time. We are identifying it after 1 month. So during this wave, it is very critical for India's third wave that Kerala identify a new genetic variant as and when it happens.
Okay. I'm going to now ask our viewers to listen to this conversation very carefully, because I think you will understand then that the full story of COVID is never told through the big headline numbers. It's told when you detail why those numbers are where they are. I think it was important to suggest that, remember, Kerala is not going through the sharp spikes and downs like other states. It is steady, and that may be part of the reason why Kerala hasn't seen the kind of oxygen shortages and hospital crisis that other parts of the country had. I don't want to be an advocate for Kerala because that ends up getting me trolled. As I said, there's much to emulate and there's much to be worried about. But thank you all very much for joining us to make sense, to decode why the Kerala